Hey, hello. It's Chet here. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast, episode 151. Today I interview Jody Fallon, who's a really great dark artist. Love his work. It's dark and emotional and kind of abstract in a way, but it's not abstract work. It's just got more of it's got abstract elements to it. Very, very cool, very emotional, very deep stuff. So I was excited to get him on the show. Been wanting to have him on for a while. That interview is just waiting in the timeline of Adobe Premiere as I record this. This is the last step. This is what I do. I've got everything. Now that I'm doing this, recording this podcast and editing it myself, I've got like a template set up in Adobe Premiere because I don't know how to use Adobe Audition yet. I know how to use a Premiere though, so I just edit the podcast in Premiere. So I basically have a little template set up, and I just kind of replace the recorded elements. And then the last step is recording a new intro. And that's what I'm doing right now. How's that for some boring talk? Whoa, okay. So, I'm there. You may hear some construction noises because we have people working on a roof, a couple of roofs next door. Roofs? Is it roofs? Is roofs the plural of roof? I don't know. Roofs, yeah, I think. Anyway, what's going on with me? It's been a crazy. I'm like a broken record. That's all I ever say. Oh, it's been a crazy week. I'm so busy, but that's the reality of it. That's the art life for you. I am preparing for Conjoined 10, which is happening this Saturday, February 22nd, opening at Copro Gallery, February 22nd. I think at 8 p.m. or something, somewhere around there. You can go to coprogallery.com or coprogallery.com with more info. Looks like it's going to be a great one again. We kind of dropped the ball getting ready for this show this year, which sucks kind of because it's the 10-year anniversary show. And but the gallery was so busy and I was so busy that we didn't, sent invites out late, and I'm sure we didn't hit up all the people we were supposed to hit up. It just was kind of a last minute clusterfuck getting the artist list together and sending out invites. It's been kind of chaotic, but as with every Conjoined show, it looks like it's going to be amazing. I always say, I think I mentioned this with the interview with Jody. I think it was with him. Maybe it was with Nathan last week. But the Conjoined show is definitely has some kind of magic component because it always comes together at the last minute. It's kind of crazy. Like, we've had times where it's just been complete chaos in the gallery. It looks like there's no way we're going to have everything set up in time, and then somehow it all just comes together and looks amazing. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun show. I just got I created a new sculpture for it. Kind of a quick one, but I want to do something new for it. So what is it? Tuesday now. And as soon as I'm done with this, I have to go cast my piece. And I have to cast a new conjoined heart. I don't know what the finish is going to be this year because every year I've created a new conjoined, one of those big conjoined hearts that I created for the first show. And each one after that with a different finish, different color scheme. I still don't know what I'm going to do. And it's Tuesday and the show is Saturday. So I'll be casting resin today, tomorrow, and then I got to paint them. There's a lot of little things you have to do when you create a sculpture, like there has to be a way to hang it on the back. There's that has to be figured out. There's painting, there's, casting, sanding the edges. There's so many little steps, but anyway, it's going to be a crazy week. After that, I can get onto these tool posters, doodling all the tool posters, shipping those out, so that'll be nice. And then I can release my third tool poster, which I finally got, so that will be coming up next month. Still haven't been smoking. I mean, I'm not smoking anymore. I've been hitting this Juul once in a while, but that's about it. This Juul vape pen deal. What else? Just chaos. That's all. Just chaos. Just scrambling. Let me get on with the rest of this. I am so sick of hearing the sound of my voice, believe me. I sometimes wonder if I should be doing this podcast. I don't know. It's just like, I wonder if people are sick of hearing me talk. I don't know. But like I said, let me assure you, no one is more sick of hearing my voice than me. I am just not a talker. So it's always a bit of an effort to record the intro in particular. Okay, let's get on with, I think that's it. Sculpting. Yeah, I've just got little bits and pieces of commission work I've been working on. A lot of juggling. Yeah, book got put back again on the back burner when all these tool posters came around. But after this week, I'll get back on that. So see how it is. See how it is. Now you know what I go through. If you only knew. If you only knew, you would probably not become an artist. I sometimes wonder that. If I knew what it was going to really be like, if I would have done it. I think the answer is probably yes. But not quite as emphatic a yes as I would have had I not known. Anyway, okay. Otherwise, I'm great. I'm doing great. Okay, let's get on with the questions. 5 questions. Let's do the new subscribers first. New subscribers to the Patreon. If you want to join the Patreon, you can at patreon.com/darkartsociety, and you keep it free for everybody, so thank you. Okay, I'm not sure where I left off. I think I got Joey Black last week, but he's a cool guy, so I'll say it again. Okay, Joey Black, thank you. Tabitha Lar, thank you. Schwartzmailer with a generous pledge. Thank you for that. Very cool. And Deborah Kneeling. Thank you, Deborah Kneeling. Thank all of you. Thank you, all of you, for supporting. All right. Let's see here. Let's get on with 5 questions. Get on with this podcast interview. 5 questions. Okay, we're at 9 minutes, 43 seconds right now. All right. Andrew, I'm going off of some questions that I asked, questions that were asked on my Instagram from last week that I didn't get to. Andrew Dane, 77. Of all the creatures you've created, do you have a favorite? Well, I've often stated that black magic, if I had to choose, black magic would probably be my favorite. However, you can't really pick a favorite. They really are like your children. It's hard to pick a favorite. I found that for me, it's, if anything, it's mostly like there might be a handful that I don't like as much as the others, but most of them I like about the same. Like I really like them. So there's that construction. I don't know if you hear that, but there's that construction I was talking about. Ugh. So if I had to choose one, it's hard to choose. If I had to choose one, I'd have to say Black Magic. Oh, you know what? I was going through. I think I answered like 7 questions last week accidentally. I could be wrong though. That's what it seemed like. I was going through and seeing what questions I asked. Anyway, Biscuit Gorilla, Bekchinski, discuss. Well, that's not really a question, but I will discuss Bekchinski, spelled Beksinski, but I believe it's pronounced Bekchinski or Bekchinski because it's Polish. Beksinski. Now, Bekchinski's gotten a lot more play these days than he had in the past. I see his work popping up on blogs and just getting shared around. When I got into him, he was very unknown, at least in the United States. I got turned on to him through Adam Jones from Tool in reference to some stuff we were creating for the Anima video. And that was late 90s. And his stuff just kind of blew me away. Completely hadn't had that reaction to an artist probably since Giger. Giger and Bekchinski are 2 big ones for me, and Giger is like the biomechanical version, and Bekchinski is kind of the dried up, mummified version of this weird kind of dark surrealism they do. So I love Bekchinski. He's one of my favorite painters. I have to be careful not to rip him off too much. I know I've been influenced. I've been influenced by Giger as well, with my gas masks and all of that. But, the trick is to make it your own. Everybody's influenced by somebody. So I don't know what more to say about Bekchinski other than he was a genius. And, man, I can't remember if we talked. I think we talk about this in the interview. See, sometimes we talk after the interview, and I think that's in the interview because I usually, say goodbye at the end or before the interview. And I know Jody and I were talking about Bekchinski and how he created so much amazing work, but I don't know if that's in the interview or if that was after the interview. In case it's not, I will say there's so many amazing Bekchinski pieces. It's not like, there's a 30 or 40 or 50 pieces floating around and like 10 of them are amazing. It's no. It's like there's got to be hundreds of them out there and 98% of them are amazing. It's pretty incredible the amount of successful paintings he has out there, because every artist paints some clunkers, or bands, they have some songs that aren't quite as good as the others, and usually it's like it's all good, there's a few clunkers, and then there's a few really great ones, great pieces. But most of Bekchinski's are masterpieces, I believe, and super incredibly prolific, and that's kind of where he, I think, beats Giger. If you want to have a Bekchinski Giger competition, I can't believe how much that dude painted. It's kind of I'm still seeing. I thought I'd seen it all, and I'm still seeing new pieces every once in a while. Okay, see, I should have kept track of how many that. Okay, that was 2. Ali_X2S. What is your relationship with Tool band? Well, my relationship with Tool, the band, is that I met Adam Jones before he was in Tool. I met him at a shop I was working at, Alterian Studios. And I forget what project it was. I think it was Swamp Thing, the cable series or something. There was a bunch of shows going on at the same time. Swamp Thing, Army of Darkness, possibly Addams Family Values or Addams Family, one of the Addams Family movies. So it's kind of hard to remember. But we, had a similar taste in music, and I don't know, we just hit it off, him and I. We even jammed at least once. I think it was once, because he was wanting to start a band, and I was wanting to start a band because I was not in a band at the moment. So we jammed a little bit, but that never really went anywhere. It was fun, but then he left the business, went to form Tool, and became a big superstar, and hit me back up around the time of the Stink Fist video, and asked me to come in and do some painting, body painting, to help Cam DeLeon, who was in charge of the body painting, kind of assist him, and create some, do some prosthetic application on set, some makeups, and sculpt a back tumor effect on the character who was played by Kevin Willis. This kind of back tumor that whispers in his ear. Tiny Cheryl, I believe they called it. Anyway, so I did that, and I just kept working with him, with them, kind of through Adam, and worked on the Anima video and the, what else? Parabola, Schism, Vicarious, and I did a bunch of 3D animation for their live shows, and some graphics for t-shirts, and some graphics for their website, their old website, and the Tool Army website, and stuff like that. So that's my relationship with Tool in a nutshell. In case you didn't know, most people know that. Most people that are fans of mine know that. I think they do. Who knows? I can't tell. I don't have a clear perspective of how many people are really paying attention to my work, how many fans I have. I kind of have an idea, but not really. I'm just in my bubble. So it's weird. Anyway, okay, that was 3. Okay. Ulmo 8. That's ULMO 8. What has been your experience with magic? Magic with a K. My experience with magic has been excellent. Now, once I've been taking classes at magic.me now for a few years, and I have to say, learning it the right way, it's a lot different than I thought it was a few years ago, or all my life really. A lot of the basic ideas I kind of had since I was a kid. My mom was kind of into this stuff, and she taught me a lot of new age version of magic, I guess. So I definitely had it in my family history. People, family members would see ghosts and stuff. There's always been kind of a supernatural thread running through my family, but it's been this, the magic journey I've been on has been really, really amazing. It's mostly meditation. That's mostly what it is. It's meditation. And if you become a master meditator, then you're pretty much, most of the way there. It's about, getting in touch with your true self, and that the thing that keeps you from being in touch with that aspect of yourself is your mind, your monkey mind, bouncing around and thinking all the time. And meditation allows you to still the mind. So it's basically a practice. It's like exercising. You just have to learn how to meditate. That's the general gist of it. And everything else is kind of, specific details to get certain effects, but the most important overall thing is meditation. So anyway, it's been great. Anyone interested, I would point them to magic.me. That's a great website, and it's affordable and really well. The information's excellent. Okay, so how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, one more. Man, that's a good question, but I don't have an answer for it. Let's see. Okay, I'm almost there. Hold on. Sorry. Damn. Where's the one I was... Well, I'm going to ask a different one because I can't find the one I was going to answer. Okay, Vera Ceramics. Vera Ceramics. Vera Ceramics. If it's... like, I don't know. Okay, what silicone do you use for larger pieces? And what casting material do you use for said large piece? Now, the silicone that I have been using, I haven't been using it. Lee Shamel has been doing all of my molds because he's way better at it than I am. He has been using Dragon Skin 20 for molds, and that is kind of the go-to silicone that we use for molds. It's a platinum cure silicone, and it lasts a long time before breaking down, so it's great. It's a good general mold making silicone. And for casting, I have been using Siltec, Siltec, and that is from Silpack. They have one in Pomona, and they have one in City of Industry or Commerce or something. Anyway, they're great. Siltec, I love it. It's a urethane resin. It's a 2-part urethane resin, and it is not water clear, but it is clear enough for what I need it for. And that is to intrinsically color to get a translucent looking material, some kind of fleshy looking substance. So that's what I usually use. Even, for if it's a larger piece, I'll do kind of layers of brush, Siltec kind of brushing in the mold, or kind of slush casting it. Or sometimes I'll just do it up solid. It's heavy as hell, but I've done it before. Another good technique that I've used is multiple layers of Siltec with a brush or slush, and then once I have a good skin in the inside of the mold, I'll pour in urethane foam, which is basically urethane that foams up, fills in all the space, and is lightweight but strong. And then cap it off with a layer of urethane resin, Siltec on top, just to kind of encase the rigid polyfoam inside there and give it a nice smooth back side. All right. Okay, is that it? Oh, also the last thing that's the 5 questions. Last thing I want to mention is the Netflix campaign we're doing. If you go into the description of this podcast, there's a link to recommend I Like to Paint Monsters, or Chet Zar, I Like to Paint Monsters is the title. Yeah, if you could recommend that to Netflix, that would be cool, and hopefully we get this documentary about me on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you want to see it, and you have a DVD player, you can buy it from chetzar.bigcartel.com. I have a signed version of the DVD, which is a bunch of extras, which is kind of cool. It's the only way you can get the extras, which is, I think, like an extra long interview with Alex Gray and some behind the scenes painting stuff. It's good. The bonus features are good. And otherwise, you can stream it on iTunes. You can rent it and stream it on iTunes. But we really want to get this thing on Netflix. So if you could just follow that link, do us a favor, follow the link on the SoundCloud page or in the body of the description of this podcast. It should have a link to recommend new titles to Netflix. Okay, that was long-winded, 26 minutes. I'm sorry about that. Okay, here's the interview with Jody Fallon. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, Jody. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Chet. You?
I'm good. There may be some construction noises. I don't know if there may be some hammering. Someone's working on the roof next door. So I apologize for that. I also have grandkids in the other room, and I told them to be quiet. But there's three dogs and granddaughters, 8-9-year-old kids in the room. So in the other room,
we have a pug here that might start screaming at any time too. So
excellent.
We'll get through it all.
Yeah, excellent. No, we love dogs on the podcast here. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm such a huge fan of your work. I can't remember when I first saw it or when I first became aware of it, but I know that Gary at Copro, Gary and Eric are big fans as well of your work, and yeah, I feel like you're really kind of plumbing the depths of your own psyche in a way that like a Beksinski did, really, or Stan Dark Art, who does the yeah. In that same way, where like you really go for the visceral, the emotion, and I just love that, and it's very inspiring to me. Like I kind of want to paint like that again. I in the beginning, when I was sort of figuring out what I was doing, I did a lot of what I see you do, which is like wiping the paint away to kind of come up with shapes and stuff. And I love that. So it's definitely inspiring me to, try some new stuff. Really, I'm a huge fan.
Oh, thank you. It's my work is a way, I guess, for me to get all that out. You know what I mean? It's,
right.
I never work from sketches or anything like that. So I go right forward, and whatever comes out pretty much comes out.
Yeah. I definitely get that feeling. Like I've become way more structured in the way I paint over the years, just because that's the way I have gone for whatever reason. And
that has, right? I mean, that's. Sometimes I wish I was that way. Sometimes I could sit down and do that, but my brain just doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? As far as working from sketches. And stuff.
Right.
For me, like once I do the sketch, I feel like it's done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, basically, my paintings are the sketch. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, that's where it starts. So.
Well, it's a different approach for sure. I mean, there's so many different ways to paint and create artwork. There's not like a set way of doing it. Like when I teach, I teach how I do it, and it's like that's how I do it. Everybody does it differently, and I think it's a grass is always greener thing in a way too. You see another artist that you like, and they're like, "Oh, I wish I could paint like that," and it's like, it's you should just paint the way you paint. Really, everyone should just So anyway,
it's hard enough just to do it, right? I mean, it's hard enough to sit down and think about doing it,
Yeah, so. Exactly. So, when did you start painting? I think you have a more unusual background than a lot of artists I interview on here. It seems like you started painting a little later, like a little later in life, maybe.
I started painting right around 2000. I was.
Oh shit! That's when I started painting. So
yeah,
but I started. I was like 33. So.
Yeah, I was. I guess 31 or something like that.
Okay.
I guess, but I was working as a. I was working as a nuclear security guard And
what?
I just hated that.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, what the hell's a nuclear
Yeah.
security guard?
Well, they guard nuke plants, you know? I mean,
Holy
you drive
shit.
around all night long, listen to Art Bell and make
Wow.
sure nobody climbs up. Yeah.
That's
So I
amazing.
was doing that, and then that contract ended, and I went and I took my last check and I bought paints, and I decided I wanted to paint. I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, so I just figured I'd paint. So that's how I got started full time.
So did that come out of nowhere, or were you like always dabbling in art before that, or?
Yeah, I wanted, you know, I guess like most of us wanted to get into comics or whatever, you know, when we were younger, I guess. But Frazetta's only lived like an hour away, right? So they opened the museum in 2000, and we used to go down there like every other weekend.
Oh my God,
and,
so lucky.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. And you know, when you go in there and you see these paintings, right? You figure anything's possible at that point.
Right.
So we used to go there like every other weekend, and I'd study the work and come home and try to paint for a week or two, and go back down and see how shitty my paintings were. So, but that's when I started full time.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. So you just went for it, huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so before that, now this is totally a trip. I mentioned this when we were talking before I started recording. You were a Marine.
Right, I was in the Marine Corps.
That's amazing. I think you, as far as I know, this is the first dark artist who was in the Marine Corps. I could be wrong. I haven't interviewed them all, but
there's probably a couple out there. There was some guys in there that used to do tattoos in barracks. You know.
Oh right, really?
Yeah, but
wow, how did that come about? How did you end up in the Marines, and what was that like, and how long were you in there, and all that?
Well, I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and again, I didn't want to stick around here working the factory, so I figured Marine Corps was. I mean, I could have joined any branch, but
Marine
the
Corps.
big joke is I like their hat. You know, that's what I tell everybody. So
that's a hardcore commitment,
so anyway,
man.
I joined the Marine Corps.
Marines are fucking hardcore. They're like
they're a lot. They're hard now. I mean, they're definitely earning their money today. You know.
Yeah.
So,
always.
But yeah, so we did that, and I got a pretty cushy station. I thought it was anyway. But,
yeah.
Yeah, Hawaii for 3 years was pretty.
Oh wow.
You know,
that's pretty cool.
It was all right. It was a good time. Yeah, it was a good time.
So you enjoyed it?
Yeah. Well, looking back, I did. You know.
Right.
When I was there, it wasn't really. I was ready to get out. You know, when I was there, but looking back, it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
I mean, where else you gonna go live in Hawaii for, for 3 years?
Right.
Japan, sent me to Japan. And it was, it was a lot of fun. It was.
Huh.
So
it's amazing. I have my wife's best friend's husband was a Marine. Also. Yeah. And so he's like super cool dude, but he's big. He's so big and scary and tough looking. But he's like a really, really nice guy, a really super cool guy. So I just find that I don't know. It's so we never had well, no, that's my grandfather, my mom's dad was in the Navy. So I guess that was it. But other than that, there was never really any military in my family. So the whole concept of the military is just very foreign to me. So I find it fascinating. Like, the idea of, going through basic training, it seems so brutal. And at least in the movies, I mean, I don't know if it's really like that, but
it was an experience when you're, it was a good place to be young. That's what I say. Right. I always say, they feed you, they clothe you, right? They send you around the world, Yeah. Back then, it was a different Marine Corps then than it
was it
now. It was. Yeah, back then, pretty much we were all peacetime Marines, right? There was no real war going on.
That's
now
true.
We've been at war forever now,
right?
For 2003, so these guys are really, they're. My hat's off to them.
Yeah,
really.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I certainly couldn't do it. I appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so were you an art kid? Did you draw in school and stuff when you were a little kid or anything like that? What's
Like
your
I said, I wanted.
What's your childhood and stuff like? I mean, how was that?
Oh, it was fucking peachy, man. No, it was, I guess it was. It was like everybody else's, I guess, right? It was, yeah. Like I said, I wanted to draw comics when I was a kid, like everybody, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, just sat around and I don't want to say that. Sat around and copied comic book artists' work, right? Like Walt Simonson and John Byrne and all these guys, Art Adams. These guys are great,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I was concerned. But then you joined the Marine Corps, right? I joined the Marine Corps, and it wasn't really, you didn't really have time to do anything.
Okay.
Do that kind of stuff. And when I got out, I came back to Pennsylvania, and there wasn't really too much going on. There was, where I'm at, there's not really big opportunity for art, so that was frowned upon, I mean.
Oh, really?
It wasn't really something. Yeah, it wasn't really something that you did full time. I don't really know too many full time painters here where I'm at all, really. So,
where are you at? Where in Pennsylvania is it like?
We're pretty much right in coal country here. We're right in Southern State, pretty much, and yeah, it's nice. We got the mountains and or hills, and it's very pretty here. But
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, just not a lot of opportunity,
Right. Yeah. Wow. It's your.
I'm not knocking Gary or nothing like that. I mean, I love it here, but it's not like it's
not an art.
To make a living as an artist here is very difficult.
Well, I'm sure the internet's helped you in that way. It's helped every artist in that way. You can kind of live. Yeah. I've talked to my wife many times. We could kind of live anywhere and have this. Have this career because of the internet and the postal.
IX a lot. When I got involved with IX, that really turned things around. When I. That really.
Explain what that is to people.
Oh, well, it used to be a lexicon, right? Mm-hmm. And they changed it to IX, the name of it.
And it's like a convention for like fantasy artists and that type of artwork. It looks amazing. It's like, God, I wish I could afford to do it one year, but it seems really kind of expensive for me to come out and do it.
It is amazing. But we're about an hour from there, so yeah. I understand what you're saying. If I was anywhere other, like if I was where you are, I couldn't do it, But right. It is a great show. I mean, I think the first year I got into the main show, I was showing like 2 booths down from Rick Barry, and
wow.
I mean, it's great.
What year was this? Do you know? Do you remember what year that was?
It was 4 years ago, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. Yeah, coming up on that, or maybe 5. I'm not sure. Whatever. I'm not even sure. But yeah, and like Vanessa's in that show, and there's a lot. I made a lot of friends that it's pretty amazing. How do I want to put that? You go from like I don't know, from fans to friends, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah,
because you're all doing your own thing, right? So you sit around, you're talking, and it's really that show is an amazing show. I mean, I can't really say enough about it. I love that show.
Yeah, it seems amazing. I'm always envious of people that can go to it. Boris Vallejo teach a seminar before or something?
I don't know if he did, but he's there.
Yeah.
People you just sit down and talk. I mean, that's the beauty of the show is that you can just go and you can just sit down.
Right.
And talk to the artists, where it's not like Comic-Con or anything where you got to stand in line for get people to sign your books. It's one of those things where if you are a fan of the work, you can actually sit down and have a conversation with the artist. It's very intimate.
Yeah, right.
And then of course there's 2 parts to the show. There's the main show, and then there's the showcase.
Oh, okay.
And the showcase is that happens Friday and Saturday night, and that's another 200 and some artists up there.
Wow.
I mean, it's really. For Reading, it's in Reading, PA. I mean, all these artists descend on Reading for like a week, and it's pretty amazing. When I
Yeah.
tell people about it here, it's hard for them to put it together. You know?
Right. Yeah.
But it's really very cool.
Yeah, it's interesting they're doing it. They do it in Reading. It must be the people who put it on must be what's that guy's name? I've talked to him before. The guy who runs it.
Pat Wilshire.
Yeah, Pat Wilshire. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's wife Jeannie. Yep.
Okay, so they must be in that area. I imagine is why they started.
I think they're about maybe 2 hours away from there, but
that's still kind of.
They found this great little spot there. It was at one time I guess they made goggles in this warehouse, and then they redid the whole warehouse into like art galleries and studio spaces. And I don't know how they came across the space, but it seems to be working out for them. You know?
Yeah, that's great.
It's a nice show.
Very cool. Well, that's cool. So I guess things started really happening for you around that time, is what you're saying? That was the start, kind of?
Yeah. I mean, back when we were talking before before we started this, we used to schlep paintings into New York. You know what I mean? Like we used to try to find gallery spaces up there. That's how I ran across your show, Last Rites, back then. Mm-hmm. And when I think back to that time versus just the IX when we got involved with them, I mean, it's a totally different life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean? Yeah.
It's not. I mean, that the New York art scene, especially back then, was definitely not suited for artists like us. We were kind of like weird to them, even though the stuff that was kind of the main art, the main New York art scene seemed like it was way more like conceptual and just not really what we were doing. You know what I mean?
You're right. Absolutely right. And if there was anything like what we were doing, it was very few.
Right.
I mean, just in a couple of hours here and there.
Right. Exactly. So you must have had a hard time with it.
Well, it was, yeah. But, back then, right, we tried to do everything we could, right?
You do whatever it takes.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, we traveled paintings everywhere just to try to get a wall. I mean,
right.
We figured a wall in New York had to be better than in my studio, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So everything was pretty much a gamble. My wife, she's a photographer, and she always seemed to do better, up there than I did, because I was, who the hell goes to New York with landscape paintings, right? Or dark art, really.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't. Yeah. So. It's yeah.
I mean, that's what I did when I started. I showed anywhere that would show my work. Even if
you have to.
Yeah. Even if it was kind of inappropriate for what I was doing, I didn't care. It was like I just wanted the experience. I wanted to get my name out there. Sure. It was before the internet was really what it is now.
Right.
Right. It was just kind of really just starting in a way for artists, I think.
I don't know what it's like out there now either. It's like on that level, but I couldn't stress that enough. You show wherever you can.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like coffee shop or whatever. I mean, just get it out there. I think.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, right? Someone's going to see it and they're going to dig it,
if it's good, it will be discovered, especially nowadays. There's so many more people in the world, and more ways to see new work. With the internet, and like I said, so
it's can't get away from it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like everywhere you look, it's there.
Which is kind of a bad thing too, because you're competing with a lot more. but I always say there's so many more people in the world now that it probably all kind of balances out. Right. So did Patrick Wilshire discover you through one of the New York galleries, or how did that relationship come about?
Well, it wasn't through New York. I'm not sure.
Maybe
exactly
online or something.
I think it might have been through the internet.
Wow.
I think it might have been maybe through Facebook. They saw my work, and I did the showcase show. At that time it was in Allentown, PA.
Okay.
Which the main show was in the Allentown Museum, and the showcase was at the hotel. I'd gotten a table at the showcase, and I showed there. My wife showed with me,
Oh, that's cool.
and the following year I got in the main show.
Wow.
So I, yeah, I'm not sure exactly how. I'll have to ask him when I talk
Yeah,
to
just
him.
curious.
Yeah, yeah.
So once that happened for you, did you start showing in more appropriate galleries, or what's been happening since those
Well,
shows?
before before I got into IX, I used to show like I used to do a show. I used to run a museum here, a small museum every year, and
Mm.
I had a show of my work, like an annual thing. We did that for like 10 years, and
Wow, that's
so it
cool.
was like every April we did that, and we also did a dark art show every October. Me and my wife and like maybe two or three other people. Every year we do a dark art show.
Really, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun. But it was like again, we would rent like this museum. I'd hang up like 20 paintings, right? Work all year for
Mm.
this, and we'd invite people and we put out food and booze, just like a regular opening.
Mm.
And we wouldn't make very much money. You know what I mean?
Right.
We'd make enough to cover the cost, maybe the booze and the museum and all that stuff.
Yep.
And then when I went down to check out IX, I walk in there and there's red dots everywhere on everybody's paintings. I'm like, holy cow! I didn't know that happened. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's a
Like
difference between showing to a crowd that wants to see that kind of stuff and not. If you're in a part
exactly.
of the part of this your state where people aren't into it, it doesn't matter how good it is.
That's right. And I when I saw that, and that was the first time I had seen that. You know what I mean? Because again, we had been shown for a long time before that, and it was the first time that I put together that there are people out there that actually collect work.
Right.
That probably sounds a little naive, but I didn't know
Well,
that.
how could you know? I mean,
Right.
it's not like
Right. I mean,
this.
if we sold a couple paintings at a show for $1,000, we thought we were, wealthy. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That's awesome.
So, uh, at any rate, so IX, then you know, how do I want to put that? We picked up collectors. People started buying our work and collecting my paintings, and it just changed everything. Of course, back then, Chad, when I saw your show up there, that was like the beginning of the financial collapse, right? That was like
Right.
what 2009, 2008, right? So
Yeah.
I think everybody at the time had a hard time, So
Right.
we were getting into it, I guess, at a really strange time. I think.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it ever came back. I'm not even sure about that, but yeah. So there's a lot of factors there, right?
Right. Definitely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, so I guess you just slowly have built up your collector base, and I'm imagining you were selling direct to buyers online
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right.
Were you
Right.
continuing to have like a yearly solo show or anything like that, or were you just kind of going with the flow? And
Once I got involved with IX, I pretty much focused on IX. Do you know what I mean?
right, that was like your big show of the year,
'cause that became like my yearly show, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, yeah.
And you just start.
Um,
So did you not show in a bunch of other galleries since, or?
um, well, I showed with the IX online show. I think you were in one of those shows with me.
Yeah,
So
I actually need to get back to
I
him.
did that, and so I did that, and I did, of course, the IX main show, and with the CoPro show. I mean, that pretty much it keeps you busy, man.
Yeah, I
You
know.
what
This is
mean?
only this is only 4 years, so I'm like, I guess
Yeah,
it's
right.
not that much
Right,
time,
yeah.
really. It's interesting. I mean, did you start off doing more landscape stuff, and then, or I mean, how did you develop your?
It was a mix, right? So I was doing landscapes because this is where I'm at. I'm out here in the again, the wilds of Pennsylvania. So you walk outside, it's all around me, right? So I was working on that. But I also had this, there's also this, the area that I'm in, right? That's like the income is like the median income for family of four is like 28 grand, right?
Wow.
So everybody's like, yeah, it's hard living, and people, it shows.
Right. Yeah. Right.
People, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I try to capture a lot of that in what I do. I mean, like,
interesting.
So when I'm doing like figurative work, they're very different from my landscape work, right? Because it's pretty hard living around here, whether people want to admit it or not. There's a lot of people that are. I mean, there's a lot of people that are feeling bad.
Yeah, suffering.
Yeah, kind of, pretty much.
Yeah. That's I mean, it definitely comes across in your work for sure. I think that's what's one of the things that's so powerful about it. It's very emotional, and it's very much like I like to say that dark art honors suffering, and it very much honors suffering. Your work, it seems like to me, anyway.
I think it does honor suffering, and I think there's beauty also in dark art. And
absolutely.
I look at like Giger's stuff. It's beautiful, right? I mean,
right.
It's definitely
yeah.
I
mean, that's what's so cool about.
I think it's mixed. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no! I love. That's one of the things I love about dark art is that dichotomy of this fucked up, creepy, dark shit and mixed with beauty.
Well, I think that's what I love about your. I mean, what you do in your work. I mean, it's not full blown dark art. You know what I mean? It's like there's a mix between this. There's a sensitivity in what you do, right? I mean, the darkness is there, but
thank you.
I think there's a balance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's what I loved about it from the beginning. Anyway.
I try to do that. That's what I try to do.
I think you have to have that.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
For sure, there has to be. I think the really good stuff definitely has to have a balance and a sensitivity in there, and I guess sensitivity is a good way of putting it. It's not coming to my head. Like a certain emotional quality of like a kind of sympathy or a love for the subject matter. Yeah.
Right.
That makes all the difference. That's the difference between your standard, like a good piece of dark art, and your standard, I don't know, not that there's some amazing death metal album covers, but you know what I'm saying? It's like pure gore and blah, like the most horrible shit you can imagine. It's not the same as like a really amazing dark art piece. It's not really the same. It's like on the fringes of dark art, I think, because it does, it is dark, but it's on the,
I don't want to say it goes too far, but, sometimes I'll be honest, it's difficult to look at.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
If that's a way to put it, I guess.
Yes. Everybody has their line for sure.
Sure. Right. And I like I said, I like, the artists that I gravitate to, they have that sensitivity, right? Mm-hmm. They have that love, right? That love in their work, right? If that's the right word to use.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's not just about making a picture to shock, right?
Exactly. And that's what,
right.
That's what I think a lot of people who don't know or that aren't familiar with dark art, if they would think that all dark art is about that shock and horror, and it's not. It's really not. It's, I mean, look at Beksinski's a great example as well. He had you're familiar with Beksinski, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's one of my favorite painters.
Yeah, I assumed. But there's some paintings that are just like will tear your heart out, but they're still in that realm of darkness.
I don't think that guy misses the mark on anything. If you want
I know. He's probably the most.
Does, right?
Yeah, he it was like, not only was he amazingly prolific, but he pretty much everything he did was amazing. Like there's, every artist has some pieces that aren't totally the best, but his are like he had so many pieces, and they were all fucking incredible. I mean,
I know, I know.
there were,
And you look at the paintings, then you go to the drawings, and then it's just
I
it's
know,
all it's again, it's almost too much,
I
right? It's
know,
almost
it drives me
yeah.
nuts, man.
And I've never seen one in real life, which I'd love to.
I did. I got to see one.
Yeah,
Or I got to see a
yeah,
couple actually. There was a place called the Morpheus Gallery
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that repped him and I think Giger and some other artists.
They're in Vegas.
They're in Vegas now. They were in Beverly Hills, and so I went there with my friend Cam DeLeon one time to try and get in there. Really, I was just barely starting out. I was kind of following him. He was going in there to try and get in, but we saw some Bekchinskys up close, and I was surprised that I don't know if this was just a phase he went through. I'm not sure if all of his paintings were like that, but they were like little teeny, like it was all cross hatching. The paintings. It was
really?
Like, yeah, it was like a little teeny brush. Everything, the whole thing. I was like, Jesus, that must have taken him forever.
Man, they don't look anything like that when you see them.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that was like maybe just a phase he went through, or if all of his work was like that. But there's a painting, like a well-known one that I'm sure you've seen, and it's like a crucifixion scene.
Oh yeah.
With all these like, it's hard to explain. There's like,
he did a couple of them, right?
Yeah, I know. I think this one's the one. Remember, there was one where there's like a bird on and then on the ground below is like all this skulls and
right.
It's kind of a popular one, but the guy I worked for, Rick Baker, the effects guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had one in his office. Wow. Yeah, so that was pretty cool to be able to go up and look at that.
You had to get past the office, right? I mean, you stand there looking at that painting all day long.
Exactly, I know. Exactly. And then he had the most amazing office, man. It was totally gothic looking. He had the whole studio made up to look like a castle inside. It was so.
How'd you get involved with Rick Baker? I mean, that's a question.
I used to work I was totally into makeup effects until like around age 12. I got into making masks, and then I knew that's what I wanted to do throughout high school. And then after I graduated high school, I started working in some small shops around, because I was in San Pedro, which is like 45 minutes from Hollywood or LA, so I could drive out there. And I just started working in the industry, and then I knew a guy that was coordinating Rick Baker's shop. I worked with him for many years at another shop, and then he saw an opportunity for me to get in there. So I worked there for about 5 years. Yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah, but so his office,
right?
What's that?
You learn a lot.
Oh yeah. Rick Baker's, all of makeup effects taught me a ton, because it was like an old school art studio, really, because there was like life casts and plaster casts all over the place. Like they used to, it's kind of a traditional atelier way of teaching, academic painting and stuff, where you have to draw life casts and
right.
So it was very much like that. But his office was up these stairs. There was these like gargoyles on the stairs, a marble staircase, gargoyles that were like the monkeys from the Wizard of Oz, kind of turned into gargoyles. You go up these marble steps, and then there's like a hallway that was like had these big arches, all cosmetically like gothic looking. And then at the end of it, there was like a Grim Reaper that was like 9 or 10 feet tall or something standing there, and there was a secret door to get into his office down the hallway. So you go in the secret door, and then it's like this gothic, amazing, like a fireplace and like a place that he would have producers come and talk to, but it was all decked out, gothic, skulls, like a real mummy head. It was so amazing. And then you go into his personal workshop, and it was set up like a Frankenstein lab, like a mad scientist lab. So that's cool. Where he would do his sculpture, it was all decked out to look like the Frankenstein lab. It was like incredible. It was cool. It was amazing. It was amazing. But anyway, so back to you. Okay, so I wanted to. No, it's cool. I just I'm more interested in hearing about you.
Oh, it's fascinating to me too.
Well, cool.
But anyway.
So when you decided to go full time painting, right? This when you
Right.
took that last paycheck and you're like, I'm
Yep.
gonna go full time. Had you been dabbling and were you developing a style yet, or were you just kind of going into it cold and like, I'm gonna teach myself how to paint, and then
Well, again, we were traveling to Frazetta's, right? We were going to Frazetta's every
right?
other week, and Paul Lair. I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Lair's work. He was a
I
science fiction
yes,
illustrator.
yeah, he was
Well,
great.
Paul, he lived like 20 minutes away.
Hmm.
And he had passed away. I met him in 1996, I
It's
believe.
Lehr, right? Paul Lair, Lehr, I think.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
just for
Paul.
people to look up.
Yep. And I met him in 1996. He was having a show at the university in the town that we lived, Bloomsburg University. And my girlfriend at the time was involved in setting that show up. And of course, I didn't get out of the Marine Corps. I didn't really know anybody but Frazetta, right? I mean, I wasn't really, and a
Right.
couple comic book guys. And she told me I should go check out the show. And of course, it wasn't Frazetta, so I wasn't really interested, right? But I did. I went up and I saw the show, and when I walked in, I was blown away, right? I mean, there was these massive wood sculptures and these beautiful science fiction paintings, and I was like, wow. So this was in '96. He passed away in '98.
Oh wow.
And I got that. Yeah, I got that job in '98, and we worked 2 years on this contract, and the contract was over. We were going to Frazetta's, and I called Paul's widow, Paula, go figure, and I asked her if we could come out. Me and my wife would come out, so we went out there. So we would like rotate, right? We would rotate between Paul Ayers' studio and Frazetta's. And there was another artist that I was friends with. He used to do Choose Your Own Adventure books. I don't know if you ever read them.
Oh yeah,
when you
yeah.
were young.
I remember.
Yeah,
those.
but he was an illustrator for that. But he was a painter, and he painted. He was primarily a landscape painter.
Who's this?
He's beautifully dark.
What's his
Ron
name?
Wing, his name.
Ron Wing. Yeah,
Ronald
yeah.
Wing.
Yeah, I just looked
Yeah.
him up because
And,
I did a little research on you, and I was just looking at his stuff, and it's like he did some. It was funny, amazing landscapes, these beautiful colors, but then he had some like really creepy, weird, distorted faces that were pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah. So that's where I was like. So that's where this was like my education back then, right? I would travel from place to place, right? And I would study this work, and then I would go home and I'd try to paint, and this went on for a lot of years. You know, I mean, Ron, we're coming up on, I guess, 5 years since he passed away. But we hung out there for like 13 years, right? We'd go out there and we'd drink wine till like 3 o'clock in the morning. He'd tell us stories about New York in the 50s and the 60s being an illustrator.
Oh, amazing.
So that was like, it was a great time.
Yeah.
You know, it was really a very exciting time. But I figured if these guys could do it, right?
Yeah. It's true.
So that's what got me going. You know, that's what really got me.
Were you receiving any like painting instruction, technical knowledge from them, or was it was more like just bullshitting and absorbing it and seeing the artwork and interesting?
Yeah, I didn't. Matter of fact, like I think Frazetta told me to go home and learn how to paint. That's what
Really?
he told me. You know, and Wing used to tell me, you know, that I had to figure it out on my own. Right?
Wow,
so
really?
I had to. They never taught me anything as far as that goes. But I would show them my work, and they'd say what they thought of it, and I'd go home and I'd work more, you know. So, and of course, Paul was gone, but I would go out there and rifle through his studio, right? And I'd see all these beautiful paintings out there, and I'd study them, and so that's how that went, man. That went on for, again, Ron died in about 5 years ago, so it went on until then, hanging out with Ron. You know, he was a lot of fun. He was like an old submariner back in like 1956.
Oh, no way.
In the Navy. Yeah, and got out of the Navy and went to Pratt. So he had these great stories about being a cartoonist in New York, you know, back in the 60s. And
yeah,
I mean, they're really priceless.
That sounds like,
man, they're really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like so much fun to hear those stories.
Doesn't it? I don't know if you ever heard these stories. Like he said, I think every Thursday was like Cartoonist Day, where everybody would go out and try to sell their cartoons.
Wow.
And then they'd all end up at the bar, you know, and they'd be drinking at the bar after the day of trying to sell cartoons. newspapers and stuff. But
Wow.
but anyway, that's how I got started in doing my thing.
There was a guy, Harley Brown. Do you know Harley Brown's art?
I don't.
Okay, yeah, you got to check him out. He's amazing.
I will.
I interviewed him for the podcast, and he's an older dude. You know, he's like in his 70s. And
oh yeah,
yeah, and he would tell stories on the podcast. He was talking about how when he first started out, he would go door to door to people's houses and be like, "Hey, I'll draw your sketch it, or I'll draw you." Basically, and like,
really,
yeah, and get, like, I think it was caricature. He would do a caricature of them and just like sell them for $1 or something. Crazy stories of, you know, it's so fascinating and interesting how you know,
it was, you know, again, that was such a different time back then.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
I mean, when you think today, I mean, there's another painter here, Steve Bagnell. I heard. Well, I won't even tell that story. Anyway.
If you didn't say his name, you could have told the story.
Well, he's a great painter. He was a great painter. He was a great painter. You can look him up too. I mean, he's pretty.
Bagnell?
You can find his stuff.
Okay.
Bagnell, Bagnell, and here's a guy that raised, like, back then, 60s and 70s and 80s. He had, like, I think 6 kids back then, trying to, you know, he schlepped work into New York and sell them for whatever, and come home, and it's such a different time, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Interesting.
I don't know.
So
we think about it, right? Like, if you had to put a painting on a bus, right, and ship it,
right,
and hope that it got there.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Totally different world, but you know, it's interesting to see how artists in different time periods dealt with their situation and made it happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it all comes down to, you know, people willing to do basically whatever it took.
I'll tell you what, those old timers and their stories, man, that inspires me.
Oh,
it
yeah.
Really does.
Absolutely.
It's just,
I love it.
So,
but so I want to know, okay, how did you, like when I first started, I got this, this is, you know, my dad was a painter. My stepfather was a painter. So I grew up around it. And,
right.
So I did I had a lot of that absorption, you know, seeing how he worked, just kind of like in the background because he worked at home. But when I decided I was going to teach myself to paint, I bought this book called How to Paint Like the Old Masters, which is a really good book for people learning to paint. It basically takes a bunch of different old masters and breaks down their process and does this.
Was there a section on there on Titian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have that book.
Yeah.
When I first started.
Okay, so because I'm wondering, it's like, how did you know what materials to use? How did you know what kind of brushes to use? I mean, where did you?
I didn't. I didn't. I had no idea. I had really no idea. I mean, even if I had that book, I really didn't pay much attention to it. Do you know what I mean?
You just bought a bunch of oil paints?
I mean, there was a lot of years there. I missed that question. What was the question?
Oh, just did you just buy a bunch of random oil paints and supplies and just went for it?
I bought this crappy Winsor Newton Winton oils, right? Top dollar. Yep. Top dollar. I thought I was really doing it. And I fumbled through a lot of stuff. I mean, made a lot of really bad, crappy paintings, and painted over them. And you know, after a while, something took. But I still fumble. I don't know if anybody else does, but I still what I do. You know, I'm still learning. You know, I mean, there's things I watch. Like if I'm watching a YouTube video, I think to myself, "What the fuck? Why didn't I think of that?" Right? So,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's an ongoing
so that's
process.
how I went. I went and bought this paint and just painted on masonite. I mean, that was the cheapest thing to do, and that's what these guys were working on.
Right.
So that's what. Yeah.
What about mediums? How did you learn about painting mediums?
I didn't. All I used was turpentine. It was turpentine and paint. That's what I used. And
were you doing?
I hope they last.
They probably will last better than, you know. I mean, the less medium you use, the better. I think for longevity's sake. I think, but So you're painting like direct kind of stuff. You weren't doing a lot of layers, I imagine.
No, I was using really thick paint back then, like palette knife paintings, and uh, a lot of texture in the work. So it was really a lot of, even my watercolors back then was just squeezed right out of the tube, and just smear around and then add some water to it, and it would just spread beautifully, and then go from there, right? Just find a landscape in there and paint it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
But
amazing. So I guess you're.
that's
I mean, you're an
like a
intuitive.
Rorschach.
Yeah, yeah. You're an intuitive painter. It's an intuitive process for you. It seems like.
I don't. I have a hard time working the other way. I really do. Like I said, if I do the sketch, it's to me, it's done. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if I'm working on a painting, no matter how big the painting is, it'll sit there on my easel until I'm ready to go. When I'm ready to go, I go.
Right.
I just jump right in there and paint.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes they fail. Sometimes they don't come out right, and I mean just paint over them.
Right. That's amazing.
Which makes a nice texture underneath, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess at this point you've settled into a technique for what you're doing now, even though, artists always learn, we're always growing. It's a never ending, especially oil painters. I think, I'm sure with all the arts though, you're always learning, but I know with, one of the things that's so fun about painting, oil painting, especially for me anyway, is that it's hard enough to keep you interested because there's so much to learn always. There's always something new.
Right.
But I imagine at this point you have kind of a set way of doing things for the most part, or no, maybe not.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you do a lot of like. Now, to me, from what I've seen, it looks like you do a lot of wiping away to get like shapes and stuff. Like you cover the canvas maybe with a layer of paint, and then you kind of wipe away. Are you wiping away with like turpentine and a rag or something?
Turpentine rag. Yep. Sometimes linseed oil.
Oh, okay.
Just because I don't want it to go, too deep into the board.
Right.
So because I want to maybe leave a little bit there. But yeah, pretty much. I use a pretty basic palette. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, sienna, ivory black, alizarin crimson. Just as a base. And sometimes they come out okay like that. You know what I mean? I don't have to do much.
Right.
I just have to make a background or whatever. But I'm a pretty fast painter.
Yeah.
Because I want to get it out. I want to get that rage out or whatever it is that I want to get out. I want to do that. So.
Well, there's something to be said about that kind of painting too, as far as capturing an emotion. Really, it's your work's really like, there's like a lot of energy in it, and I think that's one thing you get.
Thank you.
You get from that way of painting. That's one of the benefits of painting like that kind of direct, just doing it in one sitting, or just going for it. You know what I mean? It's like you get action in the painting.
We're our hardest critic, right? I mean, I don't know what people see in what I do. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know when people look at what I do that they see that, or if that's exactly what I'm going for. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get something that I like on the board, which is a struggle sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know really how to describe that. I know what I like to look at, in other people's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're looking at a painting, like what draws you across the room, right, to see it.
Right.
I mean, so when I'm doing something, I want to do something that's going to make me want to look at it.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? So
definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know. When you say that about the energy in the work, I don't know that I necessarily see that when I'm looking at my work.
Oh, really?
but I hear it. Yeah. And,
Yeah,
uh, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what to say about that.
yeah. It's just
I
I don't know. I love
know
the,
what you mean by it. I know what you mean.
yeah.
I just sometimes wish I had more of it. I guess you know what I mean. Sometimes I had more movement or more.
Hmm.
I don't want to say that. More rage in it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And more love, both. Rage and love, both. Right?
Right.
Mixed.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Rage and love.
I mean, I don't want to go too far one way and too far the other way. I guess is what I'm
Yeah,
trying to say.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Well, that's the thing about, especially when you're kind of coming from an intuitive place as an artist, and it's hard to explain this to people who are not artists, or especially people that are not, in very intuitive artists. Is that you know, you know it when you see it. It's like you have to wait until
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, I see it finally. And
Right.
a lot of the process of painting is like, especially this kind of direct, immediate sort of painting you're doing. It's like you have to you're just like, it's such a weird, unexplainable process. You're just kind of like fucking with this board until you just see at least like an inkling of something in there. Oh, I see something.
That's
and
right.
then you're trying to chase
That's right.
this thing and realize it. You're trying to follow this thing, and it leads you. It's so interesting. It's really an interesting way of painting.
Magic of the thing. That's the whole magic of this thing that we do. I think. Right.
Right? Yeah,
I mean, it's really amazing when you
it
think
is.
about it, how this phenomenon of painting pictures, right,
Totally bizarre.
opens up so much inside you. Right. It
Yeah.
opens up like, um, yeah, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for here. It opens up like a whole inner um, perspective, right, about what
Yeah.
you're about.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like looking at your work, and when you're working this way, or any of it, when you're working anyway, when you have a piece that you're happy with, I mean, it shows you personally what you're about, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you can look at it, and it's the physical fact, I think, of what's going on inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I look at it. I don't
Yeah.
know
If
that's
if it's if it's
far-fetched. But
if it's real, if it's real, if it's pure, if it's really like sincere, if the artist is sincere, I think you're getting a peek inside the soul of the artist. You know.
that's one of the things. When I met Ron Wing, it was 2000. I think the first thing he said to me that really struck me, that really hit home, because I was looking for something, right? I was looking for a reason to paint pictures that was more than just painting pictures, right? I wanted it to be something special, right?
Right.
So he said to me, painting pictures is like taking a lantern and going down a long stairwell into the bottom of your soul and finding the honest man and bringing him out.
That's excellent. That's a good
And
one.
when he said that, I just stared at him, man. I just like, what? Are you serious? Did you just say that? And that was it. That was it for me, man. I knew then that's what I just wanted to do this. This is just one of the things that I just wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to really do this. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that
Wow.
still sticks with me. I still, it's 20 years later, I still can see him saying that to me, So,
Yeah, that's a great one. That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why and it's also why I think artists tend to be so sensitive about sharing their work, or sensitive to criticism, because you really are kind of bearing. Yeah, really, it's very personal whether people like the art or not. What you're doing is super intimate and personal. It's almost like posting pictures of yourself naked or something. In a way.
It's scary. Man.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to show people what you're about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people go through life, they never show anything about what they're about, right? I mean, a lot of people, they do the best they can, I guess. But here we are, we're putting ourselves out there for the whole world to criticize, right?
Right.
I mean,
It's a courageous act, I think.
And it doesn't get any easier when they do criticize us, right? It still hits, right?
Oh, yeah.
It still hits home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So But I think it takes a lot of courage. I think for anybody to sit down and paint a painting, I think it takes courage. You know, I mean, it's
Absolutely.
when you look at the work that comes before us, right? Like Monet and Van Gogh and all this. You think, well, I'm going to beat this.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, what are you? So, like, are you kind of like? What's your plan? Do you have a plan, or are you just kind of like, or are you just kind
I'm
of
winging
like
it, Chet.
you just yeah, exactly. Are you winging it? That's kind of because that's. I think most of us are winging it. I think you just kind of follow. I feel like I'm winging it. Although as I've gotten older, I do have more things that I would like to do. I know, like I would like fantasy things, maybe like direct something or do a movie based on my characters or stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm just going day to day and trying to make the best of it and seeing where it takes you. I mean, that's kind of the fun of it in a way. It's scary though.
Yeah, it's a lot of. Well, again, yeah. You look at all these old timers, right? These guys who are out there painting and doing it before us, right? I mean, there's not a lot of them out there that are wealthy. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's it's a hard road, but right, you kind of got to live just like right now, right, on the painting you're working on.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
that's the key to happiness.
That's hard enough, I guess. I think. Yeah.
I mean,
you can get a couple good ones out.
Yeah, when my parents died, my mom died, my dad died like a year later, kind of like the classic thing you hear about happening. But they were, broke. They had no money. They were very, very, living on Social Security and just barely squeaking by. But my dad used to tell me, he was like, he was so happy because he got to paint every day. He got to paint every day of his life, pretty much. He never had he worked some straight jobs when he was like a young man, maybe out of college or something. But pretty much always painted. And so even though they were broke, he had times, there was periods where he made a little bit of money. It was very up and down though when we were kids, but generally speaking, they never really had much. And, but he was so happy that he got to paint every day. That's all he cared about. He didn't care about the money. He really didn't.
What more could you ask for, right?
Right. Exactly.
I mean,
it's
a
painter,
right?
Right. But I mean, you get to be creative every day and paint every single day.
Sure.
For your job. It's kind of amazing.
It is amazing that we have this when you think about it, right? And how many people wish that they had it. That's one thing, right?
Yeah.
When you think about how many people wish they could express themselves,
right,
the way that we express it, and be able to eat from it. That's amazing. It really is. It's very lucky. I think we're very lucky.
Yeah. I never take it for granted. I'm always very grateful of that because I know it's a rare thing. It's a rare thing. I think it's like, I don't know. I've heard the statistic that like 1% of artists that go to art college end up being successful artists or something crazy like that. It's kind of insane.
Yeah. Think about how many people are going to art school.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. Think about how many people are out there painting pictures, not just, I mean, it's baffling. It baffles your mind.
Yeah.
It really does. Across the whole world.
Yeah, I know.
Just hope somebody sees them, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. And you got to have that, you got to be persistent is the thing. Because there's a lot of...
You got to work every day, I think. I think you have to work. You have to paint. They don't paint themselves, right? You got to put in you got to put in the work.
Absolutely. So do you do prints and stuff? Have you done a lot of like print editions of your work, or are you pretty much, it seems like you mostly are selling originals.
Yeah, I really haven't gotten into prints at all. I just originals.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You got to try prints out, man.
I'm sorry?
You got to try prints out. you got to try
Well,
prints. I make maybe more money from prints than I do from originals.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's also and
So
a lot of
you
people
like,
can't afford to buy the original painting. So a print is like
are you selling lithograph prints? Is that what you're selling? Like that kind of print? Or are you
uh,
selling? Because I don't know the first thing about all that. If you want to know the truth.
it's you know well the thing is they're all prints nowadays are basically they're called G clays, even the paper ones. People call
Yeah,
it
right.
people that call the canvas ones G clays, but really I think anything printed on one of these printers is a G clay technically. But it's
Yeah.
like they're just high end inkjet printers, you know,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
with archival inks and all that stuff. But man, it's a really great way to earn money and allow like
Yeah.
an entry point for people that don't have the money to buy an original to start collecting your work and
Right.
build up to buying an original. Maybe it's really I think every artist should sell prints personally because it's
I'm gonna
huge.
have to look into that.
Yeah, for sure.
My wife makes canvas prints photographs,
Oh, really?
which yeah, I really should start looking into that, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely.
The business end of it is, I'm no good at that shit.
Yeah. Well, it can
I don't
be.
know.
Most artists aren't naturally good at it. I mean, I wasn't naturally good at it until I started, embracing it and learning about it. In the same way I taught myself to paint, I taught myself how to like
Right,
market and do the business thing because it was for me. It was like,
right.
I live in California. It's really expensive out here, so it's like I got to make money. I got to make as.
You're doing everything though. I mean, you're doing the painting, the frame, right? You're doing everything, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're making your own frames for your work, and it's really lovely.
No,
But it
thanks.
seems like it's got to be a lot of work, right? I mean, it's got to be like a lot of work, right?
Oh yeah, 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 for sure. I mean, I'm, I work every day, so I'm trying to get,
Yeah, right.
I'm
Right.
trying to force myself to take one day off a week, but it doesn't always work. It doesn't work very often.
That's
Usually,
hard to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
To me, usually the weekends are like when I say, "Oh, I'm gonna let myself work on one of the things I kind of want to work on." Whereas during the week, it's more
Right.
like dealing with business stuff and shipping
Sure.
prints and all that, and it's a lot of work. It's kind of like a
Well,
day.
you worked hard to build your brand, you know? I mean, you worked really hard to build your brand. So you have to,
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't want to. I don't want to. Not to sound. I don't want to sound like a dick or anything, but I don't want to die broke like my dad did. You know, I just don't. I want
yeah,
to have stuff to leave to my kids and everything, and I mean, they were awesome. My parents were great, and I'm glad they did everything the way they did it. But I know that there was a lot of worry about money,
struggle.
yeah, and struggle, and it was
Sure.
really hard to see them
Yeah.
struggle so much, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't want to struggle that hard, so I'm busting my ass now so I can hopefully not have to
Yeah.
struggle when I'm like 70 if I make it that
Right.
long.
Yeah.
It's rough, but
That's a hard time to struggle. It is.
it's a bitch.
This is one of the hardest things I think you can do, really, if you want to know the truth. I mean, it's, to try to make a living as a painter. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I think like
sort of, but it's
it's
rewarding too, right? I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's like this horrible thing,
no,
but
yeah. Otherwise,
it's a rewarding experience too. I mean, this show's coming up this week at Copra, right? I mean, the one you curated.
yeah,
I've never been. I wanted to be in the show forever, right? And here I am, which is very cool.
yeah, yeah.
How many people show up to this? I mean, is there a lot of people show up
Oh
to this
yeah,
show?
yeah. It's like their biggest show of the year. There's like a ton. There's usually lines out the door for the conjoined show. So
See, that's great,
yeah,
right? I mean,
it's totally great. It's 10 years, you know. It's
When you think about that, though, right? 10 years.
Yeah, this is the 10-year anniversary show.
Jeez.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah,
one.
and you got people lined up for to see it, and that's the beautiful thing about that's the rewarding part, I think,
Right. Oh yeah.
of this. Right? No matter how hard it is, you have all these people wanting to see what you do, right? And want to take that in and want to and essentially they want to love you, right? They want to see your work and they want to fall in love with the work,
Mm-hmm.
and which is basically, I think, falling in love with you personally, right? So
Yeah.
that's the rewarding of it, right? Anybody that takes the time to put their hard-earned money out on a piece of yours, I mean, that's I never try to take that for granted. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's you know, you walk in somebody's house and your painting's hanging in their living room, right? It's the center of their life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
That's the reward.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I say it's a hard life and it's a struggle, I don't mean to make it sound like it's all that, because it's not all that. It's a lot of fun too.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like if it was just pure misery, nobody would do it. I wouldn't do it if it's just pure hell, you know.
No, I'd go be a coal miner, right?
Right. I'd go back to working in the movie business if it was that bad.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's an amazing thing. But it's so rewarding that we are willing to suffer all the difficulties, basically.
That's right.
You know, so it balances out.
That's right.
You know,
it's hard to explain to people too, the work and the what's the word? I don't want to say suffer again, but everything that you do for this thing, right? Everything that the money you put out for supplies, just everything.
Yeah.
It's
the rejection.
There is a reward.
there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot
over and over.
There's
a lot.
It's difficult. It's difficult.
Coal miners starting to sound a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. No shit. I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's and giving up the security too, but I don't think any job has security anymore. That's something from like our childhood. You know, there's no security.
It's such a weird time we're in, man.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's just it's such a weird time.
I remember growing up and you know, when I was little, we had like dental insurance, and my dad was totally blue collar, you know, worked on a tugboat, was a fisherman.
Everybody was on Saturday, right?
What's
Everybody
that?
was out picnicking. Everybody was mowing the lawn on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right?
And it was
they
like
working 2 jobs, you know.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, everybody, you know, you could have a house and have just kind of a regular job and own a home. It was just a different time.
Yeah.
You know? Crazy.
It is.
I don't know.
So we're pretty brave, I think, to do what we do in this time, right? You got to give us credit for that.
That's true. On the other hand, I always say things are so fucked up and crazy right now that you might as well just go for it because there's not really a lot. There's not much to lose at this point. There's not really any security.
Bomb shelters need paintings on the walls too, man. Right?
What's that?
Bomb shelters need paintings on their wall too.
There you go. we got the untapped bomb shelter market to look forward to.
Yeah. That's right.
That is not a bad idea. Art for bomb shelters. I think you might have
write that down.
Yeah, you might have struck your $1 million idea there. So can you if you
I got that idea from somebody else, but I don't want to mention it.
Oh, okay. We won't rip them off. So if you can take me through a little. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your process. I mean, are you
okay?
Do you go in with any idea of what you're going to do, or do you just start painting and then find something.
I just start painting.
So you don't go in with like a color scheme or anything like that. You just kind of go for it.
Again, I start with the very basic limited palette, right? And I just go for it. Yes. Yeah, it's not really fascinating. I mean, I use again just ivory black, alizarin crimson, Barciana, and maybe some sap green, and I lay it all out, and I take a rag and turpentine, and I just go, and I don't know how I do it. I really don't. I just do it.
Yeah, I feel bad asking you because I've been asked this a million times myself, and I know how it is that it's really hard to explain what the creative process is like. It's easier for me to explain now that I'm a little more structured in how I do it. Like I go through like, sketches, studies, and kind of plan things out a little bit now. But just because that's, like I said, that's sort of where this thing has led me. But I could I
feel bad that I don't have a profound answer for you. I wish I could tell you something that was really.
I mean, I'm just like.
But I don't.
I completely understand that though.
Yeah, I got Tool playing in the background, right? Or I got Tom Waits playing in the background, and I work myself up into some weird rage, and I just paint, And if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out, then I wipe it out and start again.
Yeah.
I have some videos out there.
Oh, you do?
My wife was. Well, yeah, my wife was filming me last year. We'd go live out in my studio, and I'd start and finish a painting.
Oh, I gotta see this. Is this on YouTube?
They're on my. Well, yeah. There's I think there's some videos on YouTube she put out there. Yeah, there are actually.
Oh, cool, excellent. Okay, that's the best way then, just to watch to see you do it.
Yeah, that ought to describe it all.
Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, I was using spray paint, all kinds of stuff in one of those videos. So pretty much whatever made it work is what I was doing.
Right.
Yeah. And I think she filmed that. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. We came back from the bar, I think.
Wow.
That's when I was painting.
So yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask you too. Is like, are you a nighttime painter or a daytime painter, or do you have a schedule that you follow?
I used to start around 3 o'clock, but I just came up with a new studio, just a studio space that I'm renting now, so I have to start in the morning, which that's not easy for me. I like to start like in the afternoon and work till 10, maybe 11. But,
that's my natural thing too.
Yeah, because that way I'm not burning out. You know what I mean? Like first thing in the morning, the ideas just aren't there. I find myself pacing around most of the day. For some reason, in the afternoon is when I really want to get at it.
Right.
I don't know what that's about, but
I'm the same way.
It feels like it's been more difficult, and I have to work there in the day. It's different to get used to. It really is.
Yeah.
For me.
I've been doing it too. I've been trying to do that morning schedule too for a while now. I've trying to go to bed early, and it's a bitch.
It's hard, right? When you do it a certain way for a long time. I mean, you're used to it.
I've been a night owl since I was a kid, since I was a little kid, and every summer I would just I would stay up all night and do my artwork.
Oh yeah.
That was my thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like my time of the day, right? Like dusk is like, I don't know how to put that, but I feel it's conducive to the kind of work that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's true.
You go out the window and watch the sun go down. I think I was talking to Travis Louis about sitting in the dark looking at your paintings, right? I think we were talking about that a while back, and things change, right? I mean, you're looking at the pieces, it gets dark. I don't know if you've ever done that, but sit and have a wine and look at your work as it gets dark, and everything changes, and the whole contrast of the piece, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's totally a different trip and different lighting situations. I mean, I'll do that. Sometimes I'll take a painting out of my studio and kind of take it to different rooms in my house just to
Yeah,
try and get, see how it looks in a darker light and under this weird light in my kitchen, and just to, I don't
yeah.
know, just to kind of understand the painting better and try and evaluate it more,
I think that's part of it. I really do. I think like uh, that used to be my favorite thing. Actually, was to sit and look at my work as it got dark in my studio,
Mm-hmm.
right? To see
Yeah.
what values come out. That
Yeah.
used to be. I used to look forward to that. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I heard this one, I forget who it was, some artist I was reading an article about saying that they like to work at night because people are asleep. The people in your part of the world are asleep, and they are there's less psychic chatter
Hmm.
in the air. So you have like a sense of more a sense of inner calm because most people are asleep, and you're not getting
Right.
this kind of weird energy in the air. I don't know if it's true, but it
Yeah,
feels that
yeah.
way. You
That's
know,
that's very interesting. Yeah, I never really considered that.
because I mean, it feels to me nighttime feels so much more peaceful and quiet.
Yeah,
Like I feel settled at night.
right.
Like part of it's because people aren't going to bug you. You're not going to get phone calls and this and that.
Right.
You don't have to do podcast interviews.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just you were saying that just about how painful it is to go to the grocery store, during the day.
I know. It's like,
Basically the same concept, I guess, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, totally, man. I mean, I kind of save the crap work I don't want to do is in the day usually, which is like business, emails, blah, 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 that sort of thing. And then in the afternoon into the evening, the problem with me is that my tendency is to go later and later. I mean,
Yeah.
if I wasn't married and didn't have a family, and was just completely on my own, I would probably be one of these people that paints until I'd probably be on a night schedule, 100% painting until
Yeah,
five in the
probably.
morning, 6 in the morning. But it's like you can't do that when you've got other people in your life that aren't on that schedule. It just doesn't really
I know.
work. Otherwise, everyone's like kind of tiptoeing around you, and
Right.
it's just I don't know.
But on the other hand, if you had to get a job that was third shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, graveyard shift kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's very interesting.
yeah,
Maybe I'll pull all nighter tonight. I don't know.
yeah. Well, the older I get, the harder they are to do. That's the thing. It's also it's like usually I end up having like I had to pull an all nighter on Friday night because I
Yeah.
had to finish the sculpture for my conjoined sculpture because I had to get it
Hmm.
molded. It's like when you're doing a sculpture, you got to get it molded. Got to allow time for molding, casting, painting. So the show is Saturday. I haven't even gotten the mold
Right.
back. The mold is ready for me, so I have to pick that up tomorrow so I can cast it. But I had to put an all.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Holy
yeah,
cow.
yeah. I'm gonna be going right up to the last minute. But I don't live that far from the gallery. I'm like 45 minutes away, so I could just go and drop it at the last minute. But I had to work. I went to bed at Friday. I worked all night Friday, and I finally went to bed at 8:30 in the morning, and
Wow.
it was kind of like I'm getting too old for this. This is not
Yeah, you
as
wake
easy.
up feeling like you're drinking all night
Yeah,
long, right?
exactly. It's almost like a hangover, and it's just like
Right.
or one good thing about it though is when you go to sleep, you just are out instantly. Put your head in the pillow, and boom,
Yeah.
you're out. You're so exhausted. So I don't know. I usually the only all nighters I do nowadays are when I have this crazy deadline, and then it's not really that fun anymore.
Yeah.
When it's some horrible deadline.
So you don't paint during the day at all? I mean, you're just working on pretty much.
I
Um,
yeah, I go until about I do usually do emails, business stuff, or until about 1. p.m. I try and work. I start working like around 9.
Mm-hmm.
At 1 o'clock or so, I have lunch, take an hour, and then I kind of get into it. Then I start my kind of creative, fun work after that. So like at
Right.
2,
Right.
3 o'clock or something. I always throw a movie on. I haven't listened to music. I haven't listened to music for so long. I used to always listen to music when I painted, and then I got into documentaries.
Really?
And I've watched every single documentary that exists, I think, in the world. I don't know what it is.
See, I have a hard time with that, putting a movie on. I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have to have music. I feel like I have.
I could see that. It totally makes sense because music's a lot less. It's not it's not engaging your intellectual part of your brain as much.
Right. It's not drawing away from It's not drawing away from what you're focusing on, right? It's not for drawing away on. I think the kind of like the music you listen to when you're working, I think adds to the work, right? Like if you're listening to Mahler or you're listening to Shostakovich, I think it becomes like a higher. I don't know if I should say that, but it helps you think better towards.
Mm-hmm.
Helps me think better.
Yeah, right.
Right. I don't want to say it helps anybody else, but
most I think most.
But
artists...
if I like put on the Sopranos, right? Like if I put on the Sopranos while I'm working, it's like a totally the opposite thing, right? Like no matter how many times I watch the Sopranos, it still draws my attention away from what I'm doing.
Yeah,
right?
It's weird. You know what? It's weird. It's weird though. I totally intellectually understand that, but I have many times watched The Sopranos while I was painting, and it's like I don't watch it. I listen to it, and I find that it occupies. It's weird. Like it occupies part of my brain, so that I can be. Like I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It helps me to paint though. It really does. It's a trip.
Again, it's a weird phenomenon, man. However we work. Right?
Yeah, everybody's totally different. I used to do a lot of painting when I would talk on the phone. I'd be talking to a friend and painting. And that, and that was again another. I don't know if something about that. It was like part of my brain was occupied, so the other part of my brain would just be focused on painting, and I wouldn't really have to think about what I was doing as much. It's really weird. Almost a way of I don't know. It doesn't make sense, I know, but
I've never tried that.
Yeah. Hey, if it's working for you, I think painting with music is much more.
Do you let people in your studio? I mean, do you let people come into your studio?
Yeah. I mean, not while I'm painting. I mean, I don't not let them in while I'm painting, but I wouldn't. I don't think I've ever had anyone over except Mike when he was doing the documentary about me. He came in and while I was painting sometimes to shoot, but that's kind of a different situation. I get too distracted. I don't think I would do well painting like with somebody.
If you're in the middle of a piece, do you have a problem with anybody coming in your studio when you're like in the middle of a painting?
I mean, I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah.
I prefer not to be disturbed.
Yeah, probably just your family.
Yeah, but it's like, you know how it is.
Right.
Sometimes like you're right in the middle and you're in the zone and then something, you got to take the trash out or something. It's like, no, you took me 3 hours to get into this mental headspace.
See, that happened to me today.
Yeah.
I was waiting on someone to show up and they were late, right? And I'm standing there looking at this painting, and I'm thinking, and I knew as soon as I got involved in this painting, they would show up.
Right.
So I was waiting on them to come before I got involved. So I lost like a whole hour, right, waiting on them, because I don't want to get started on this painting and then have to hang it up.
Right.
Just to play whatever they were doing, but yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing that people don't understand too, is that for me anyway, I could be painting for like 4 hours, and the first 2 or 3 hours I'm just kind of not in the flow. I'm fumbling. I'm not in the flow, and then the last hour or two, it's like boom, you get in the zone, and then you make up for all that lost time because you're so in the zone, and it's like you're just nailing it. So it's like sometimes it'll take all day of just it not clicking, and then it just locks in right at the end, and then it's like you kind of
see.
make up for everything, all that time you're floundering, you know?
So that's good to know. That's good to know that you do have those couple hours of struggling, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it's not
for
sit
sure.
right down. It's all there.
That's the
I
thing.
mean,
You can't just sit down and get into it. It takes time. Or me, anyway.
it does, I think. Yeah. Yeah. You have to work yourself up to it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, yeah. That's part of my process, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but that's where the music comes in, and that's where fighting on Facebook comes in, and that's where all these other things come in, right?
Right.
Work yourself up into this thing where you have to make something.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. You know, I guess there's people out there that can just go sit down and paint. I can't. I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I
Yeah.
suppose.
Because I don't want to be doing other things, right? I want to be out doing sometimes anything other than painting pictures, right? I want to, yeah. So it takes time. It does, just like you said.
Yeah. How do you deal with burnout? Do you ever get burnout? Because you paint a lot, right?
You know, I do get burned out, and then I force myself to work. That's how I deal with it. And I force myself when I don't want to paint. I force myself to paint.
Right.
That's how I deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I do get burned out. I think everybody gets burned out when you're doing this every day. Sometimes you feel like you're stuck in this rut, and you know what the hell does the world need with another painting, right? But I just push on, I guess, right? Just paint, and even if it's bad, you know, even if it comes out. I mean, I don't, you know, if you think it's bad, or if I think the piece I'm working on is bad, at least I did something,
right?
You know, that I can put aside.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, just finishing sometimes is so important.
That's another
doing it. You know?
Yeah, that's another thing in itself. I think just do it, and put it aside. If I could tell anybody that, you know, I see, you know, sometimes there's a lot of. Someone showed me this week. Someone showed me some watercolors that they were working on, and you know, they're just starting out. And watercolors is pretty unforgiving, I guess, if you're trying to make them very technical. Yeah, but I mean, that's not how I paint, right? So I try to tell them, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of them. Just do them and set them aside. You know, you can always come back to it. You can always do it. Just don't be afraid. Just paint. And that's really, I think, the only advice that I can ever give anybody. Just paint. Just fucking paint the fucking thing, and then deal with it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's fear is, you know, the opposite of what you need when you paint. You have to do it like, because I know so many, especially newer artists that are learning to paint. You know, they have a vision of what they want, and they don't know how to get there yet. And so instead of just boldly going for it and just fuck it, just going for it, they'll kind of get something that's, you know, they start to see something that's looking good, and then they freeze up because they're afraid to mess it up.
Right.
And
that's right. And you know, I have that too. I don't know if you have that, but sometimes I'll have that too. Like I'm afraid, like I'll have a piece, like I was working on a piece maybe last week, and I was like, well, I thought to myself, this is pretty good, but it needs this. And I thought, if I do this, I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do for that now is if I'm at that stage and I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up, I'll take a picture of it and bring it into Photoshop and start messing with it in there. Like, especially if I have an idea I want to try out that I'm not totally 100% sure about, what I'll do is, like, I'll think, oh, I think it needs this, but I'm afraid to mess it up. So I'll just take a photo, or I'll do it on my iPad Pro. Also take a picture in Procreate and use the Apple Pencil, or Photoshop, and just paint, just to see if the idea is going to work, you know, just to test it out. And that saves me kind of a lot of trouble. It's a kind of a technological cheat, but there's not really any cheating anymore when it comes to painting.
I don't know. I don't think there's no such thing as that. Really,
it's like whatever works.
Pretty much. If you got to use a broom to get the paint on, then do it. You know, I don't. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff out there that everybody used, projectors. I mean, whatever.
Right.
It's whatever gets it on the board, I guess. Whatever you got to do.
Whatever. If if you like it.
Just because I don't work that way, it's wrong.
Right. Right.
I had a hard time learning how to use Skype today, so.
Yeah. That's what I say. If you if you enjoyed yourself, if you're enjoying the painting process and you like what you got in the end and you're satisfied, then that's what matters. It doesn't matter how you got there.
Right.
I know.
Right.
A lot of, I know. That's one thing that the more people I interview on this show, the more I realize it's like no two artists are the same in their approach to creating artwork.
What do you have, like 150 of these, right?
Yeah, I think this is going to be 151 this episode.
That's a lot of that's a lot of different opinions about art, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's a lot of different. Yep, a lot of different ways of working.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's been really cool for me to be able to, interview all these artists and learn how they do it.
It's cool that you're doing it. It's cool that you're giving these artists the opportunity to talk about what they do, I think.
Yeah, well, it's...
Myself, I appreciate it. I really do.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I've been wanting to have you on the show a long time. Yeah, it just seems like there's a need for it in the community, really. So I keep doing it.
I think, yeah, I think so.
Like there's not really another podcast like this, I don't think, that's especially the dark art centered one, but I don't know. Like I'm just gonna keep, just like with my artwork, I'm just gonna keep following this thing and see where it goes. This podcast thing, and just keep doing it and see what happens.
You're doing good work, man. Next you'll be traveling around with the television crew, right?
Yeah,
going to people's studios.
I've thought about it. I mean, that's one of the things I'd like to do with the Patreon is I know like a ton of artists in the LA area, and I could easily go. I could go there with my iPhone and just shoot in their studios.
Yeah.
So like that's something I want to do. It's just a matter of finding
the time.
Yeah, it's all about juggling time for me. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Who knows what'll happen. Well, do you have any? But you've got the Conjoined. You're in the Conjoined show coming up. It's going to be this will air. Right. This will air on Wednesday. So the show is on the following Friday, which is what is it? It's February 22nd is the opening for Conjoined 10. So you're going to be in that. And do you have any other?
That's exciting.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I've seen some of the pieces for it. It's going to be a really good one. Yeah, it was a lot. This year's been very last minute. Gary and I both kind of dropped the ball as far as getting invites out because we both have been so busy. But the Conjoined show, we talk about this often. It's like a magic show. I swear to God, it's like there's some magic to it.
He's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. But there's some weird magic in the show where it always just comes together at the last minute, and it's an amazing show. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't question it. I just go. I'm just lucky to be involved in it. But
that's what, man. It's humbling to me. I mean, there's so many great artists in that show every year.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I watch videos at least on YouTube of it, man. And it's astounding. It really is.
Well, you're in there now. Do you have any other shows coming? any big shows coming up, or anything you want to promote before we go there?
I have a solo show at IX Gallery, which runs from April 1st to April 30th.
April 1st, April
online.
30th. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and of course, Luxicon will be in October, which you should think about that if you can do it, Chet.
I know. I want to. I've talked to him about it, but I just haven't been able to get it together.
Yeah.
So that's it for now. That's all you got going on. That's the next.
Pretty much. That's it.
And then whatever happens in the future happens, right?
Whatever happens after that, I'm all in. I'm down.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It was really, really cool talking to you, getting to know you, and learning about your work. I'm into it, man. I'm into it.
Thanks, Chet. I appreciate you having me on here. I really do. It's good of you to do that.
Yeah, well, the feeling is mutual. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate your support. And if you want to join the Dark Art Society podcast, you can join for as little as $1 a month. Patreon.com/Dark Art Society, and that supports the podcast. And you get your podcast a day early. So yeah, you can do that. And yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Jody for coming on and taking the time. I appreciate it. And
thank you, Chet.
Yes, let's say goodbye to everybody. Goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.